Kipchumba Murkomen of Jubilee, welcome to the program, and to my right is Homa Bay Town MP, ODM's Peter Kaluma. You're welcome as well. We are discussing tonight, of course, what perhaps the country hopes will be a big announcement coming from an opposition meeting that is slated for tomorrow, that is being pegged as a unity talk to bring an opposition coalition together in a formidable fashion to face off against President Uhuru Kenyatta. That, as well as the election laws that President Kenyatta assented to, despite the hue and cry from the opposition. So, Kaluma, let me start with you. What is the objective of tomorrow meeting at Bomas, is it?
The whole country knows that we are in the election year, and of course each sides of the political divides are preparing for the elections coming in August. The whole country, of course, also reckons with the changes which have been made to the election laws. So far as I know what we are going to do tomorrow, there are two things we are going to do. One is to discuss the consequences of the electoral laws changes. People I think have not fully understood their full ramifications. We want to discuss how they impact on the elections, and discuss in a consultative way how to position ourselves as a coalition as we approach elections. And it has been said around the issue of those election laws that one way, if we are aggrieved by them, would be to go to court. Is something we will discuss the pros, cons, and whether that is the option we want to take. Others have said we should be going for the sovereign power, mass action. The pros and cons in terms of the timing, and this being an election year, those are things we have to ponder through and discuss and come to a resolution on. In terms of other options, some people have said that maybe we just ignore them. That, of course, is not an option for a political unit like COD or NASA or the opposition. So that is not there. Others have said that looking at the laws, there are fears that they open up the electoral process to rigging and others. How do we respond? If our elections become a rigging competition again, do we also resurrect the dead? How do we respond if there were to be a motive of rigging? So all that will be discussed.
Let's talk about the coming together of the opposition, which really is, well, equally, if perhaps not more, frontline for Kenyans in terms of how will you get these parties together and who will be the front runner, the face of the opposition. What are your hopes in as far as tomorrow's talks?
Yes, let me clarify to the nation that beyond the matter of election laws, the only other agenda we have on the table at Bomas tomorrow is the forthcoming voter registration, and how to mobilize our constituencies around it. In COD or NASA or the opposition, we never launch. We don't commission, we just do our things. So I can assure the nation that the idea that we are launching NASA or anything that I'm seeing in most of the media stations today and yesterday is not an agenda item tomorrow. All right.
What are your own thoughts about tomorrow's meeting, to the extent that, while publicly they may not agree that, a lineup is necessary, quietly behind the scenes, I mean, this is really the major issue in the opposition. Any jitters from the Jubilee side?
Let me start with, I don't think the elections law is anymore gaining traction as an agenda for them. And I'm saying that because the myths around election law were debunked in the Senate. We gave the opportunity to all those Jubilee senators to make their case. And ultimately, 26 senators, which is almost 60% of the country, of the counties, voted for the law. And I hasten to say, for the benefit of the public, in that vote there were 2 ODM voters, there were 2 Ford Kenya, there were 2 KANU, and then the rest were Jubilee, and there was also NAC. And it is a wider representation of the country, because there were lies that were being propagated initially that the alternative was manual system and so forth, but now it has become clear that we were just talking about complementary system, and that Parliament and political parties have a say in how that complementary system is going to be implemented using regulations. Number 2 is to say, and I think court should be thanking us, one of the things we passed in that law was to do away with education qualification for presidency. which has been a very emotive issue, and I think they would never get a presidential candidate if we are going to really insist on the education qualification. And second is to deal with the question of campaign financing law, which again, it's only President Uhuru Kenyatta who has complied to that financing law in the same legislation. So I think...
So you're saying it's a non-issue to discuss tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
So to the meat of the issue
when it comes to the question of formation of NASA, I think for us it's immaterial, it's inconsequential really, because the people who are coming together is a combination of losers. Court have a benefit of doing this. They either lose jointly or they lose severally. Because if you bring together Raila Odinga, or you bring Musalia Mudavadi, or you bring Wetangula, or you bring Kalonzo, they were all a group of persons who lost. If you were to combine all their votes, still Uhuru Kenyatta had 50+1. Remember, number 2 last time lost by 900,000 votes. And if you combine with the votes of Musalia Mudavadi, which was 300,000, to even reduce it to
over
500,000. If you added Peter Kenneth, who are 60,000, Martha Karua 60,000 to our side, you would see the win. So the competition of Jubilee, and I want to tell you, this is from us. Jubilee is not competing as against the court. We are competing as against our promises and manifesto. Actually, we are in a competition of our own. So that any person who had this misguided imagination that NASA, remember even Kanu was in Mudavadi's party last time. I don't think they will manage it to go to that NASA. So as a matter of fact,
well, they're going to be there tomorrow. At least reports have indicated that they will be there tomorrow.
I mean, really, opposition is losing more than gaining.
What do you think about that? Because when people talk about the quantitative part of the politics, adding the numbers together, the Mudavadi, who has been possibly touted as the newest entrant to the group, the change maker, some even saying a possible presidential candidate, only brings in about 400,000 votes to what court had previously. Has the game changed significantly, that a coming together, he's saying, of losers, but really of Kenyans in this fashion could change the election outcome this time around?
And you know better than me the issues that will dictate the next elections. And let me say, I'm very happy when my brother speaks, because I look at him in the eye. I think you should be looking at him in the eye. The situation we have as a country is that President Uhuru Kenyatta is a one-term president. If I were his advisor, I would tell him to begin packing to go. You know, the next elections will turn around 2 major issues, and you need to question how, you know, President Kenyatta and Jubilee stands with them. One is exclusion, the deliberate failure by the president to create the Kenyan nation we've been yearning for. Tribalism and entrenched, negative ethnicity. Kenyans are feeling excluded, and I wish, my brother looked at it and questioned where other Kenyans stand with them. And this is the reason as to why we have the first ruling party in the history of our country who cannot win a single meaningful by-election anywhere. You know, all sections of the country are saying these people do not belong to us, so they are entrenched in terms of their political positions. The 2 is corruption. And you remember your first news item here. Why are we talking of inability to run the health sector, for instance? Remember, before the doctors went on strike, the other day you were talking about looting in the health ministry. So this is a situation that is, insufferable, and it is going down there. What I wanted to say is that if you look at the demographics of the country, remember, thanks to, genuine patriotic Kenyans like SK Macharia, we now have it on record that the 2007 elections were rigged. We keep saying that in 2013, President Uhuru Kenyatta had a top-up of over 2 million votes. And this is why there is a lot of tensions around these election changes. We are saying we cannot revert manual. We are saying even if you are talking about backup, it will have to be digital or electronic. Let us agree and move in that direction. And I tell you, if we have genuine free and fair elections, there is no way, the formation of Jubilee as you know it can beat God for the opposition.
The opposition has basically said what's going to send President Uhuru Kenyatta home and his government is the fact that we're looking at a 92 scenario where a 2 I beg your pardon, scenario, and more than that. Does it not worry you then that so many groups have come together to the extent of removing this one government from office? Is it a kind of for lack of a better term, are you having a come to Jesus moment that perhaps you have done something wrong to turn so many political outfits in such a resolve to have you leave power?
To the contrary, I want to remind my brother that first of all, President Kenyatta met all the constitutional requirements in terms of the number of counties we are going to get the votes, in terms of number of votes 50+1. So when he talks about exclusion of the country, I don't know what he's talking about. Number two, as we speak, leaders who are elected in ODM in Coast Province are in Jubilee. Leaders who are elected from ODM in Nyanza Province are in Jubilee. Leaders who are elected in different political parties in Western, including ODM, are in Jubilee. All leaders that were elected in ODM in Northeastern Province are in Jubilee. When he talks about exclusion, I wonder what he's talking about, because from 2013, even if you are going to talk politically, we have made significant gains. And make no mistake, by the time a governor, a senator, a member of National Assembly is deciding to go to a particular direction, it's because he knows that the ground has shifted to that direction. So the gains we've made politically are very high. Number two, the only way you can demonstrate whether a president is uniting the country or not is through budgeting by National Assembly and the projects that are going to be run and the budget they are presenting National Assembly. My colleague is a member of National Assembly. He knows very well that the budget for this country has been distributed to all areas. The president has even been, people have been complaining, why is the president going all the time to Kisumu? Even in Migori, where they threw shoes on him, he still went there. In Western, he has been there so many times until some people are complaining why the president isn't there. He was in Coast even this week, and the programs that we are talking about. So when you talk about exclusion as being a factor, I can tell you, as a matter of record, that we have made significant gains.
What
Number
exclusion
two, when you talk about corruption,
let him respond to you, because you asked what is he talking about. What exclusion are you talking about?
Does the president know where Homa Bay County is?
I
can
want to believe he does. Why not?
This is the first president in the history of this country that does not know the biggest county in Nyanza is Homa Bay.
Are you saying he snubbed you?
He has never stepped. And ask my brother here, really.
You're upset the president didn't come to your county?
He does not know where it is. He has never come. He does not know it exists.
As a matter of fact, I am aware.
You do know he doesn't come to every single county.
Can I complete?
Let me speak.
Because
let me speak.
Let him respond to the question of exclusion, right?
Because I was quiet when he was speaking.
There is a whole world of difference between getting a leader to your side and getting the people. Let me tell my brother that if the president were to get Coast Province, for instance, you know what he needs to do, and he's not doing it. If you want to get Western Kenya, you may go as many times launching those miniature things as you want. Remember, the people of Western Kenya are not the fools people imagine they are. They compare what is happening elsewhere. And I'm saying the manner in which we've been distributing national resources under this administration, supported by your tyranny of numbers in the National Assembly and in the Senate, is so skewed, most Kenyans are mere taxpayers. And if you can wake up...
How is it skewed? In what sense? What do you mean?
No, let him show me a single thing the national government has in Homa Bay County. There is nothing. You go to facilities being built across.
Kaluma the other day.
I'm the one speaking.
Let me just be very honest. Let's go to facts. I think it's wrong.
I
think it's wrong because I'm not completing my response. I'm not completing my response.
He's asked you name one national government project.
Kaluma the other day was in a chopper with Senator Keter to go and launch an electricity project in his county. The deputy president was in his county. I mean, really, there is no single county in this country unless we are lying. Look, for example, we have done 3 million title deeds in 3 years, and many of which are in areas like Coast Province. If you talk about electricity connectivity in this country, we've done connectivity that has never been done in the last 70 years. If you talk about, and it's all over, I mean, including in his home area. So I think the point we should be able to say as a country is that there is no need for us to lie. Now, when we talk about corruption, and I think that needs to become very clear. There is nothing this government has not done to facilitate the institutions that are fighting corruption to do their job. But most importantly,
Kenyans don't see people behind bars at the end of the day.
It is not the responsibility of any Kenyan, Koponda Kaluma or I or the president, to push people to go behind bars. Once people have been charged, once the information is in public, it's the responsibility of an independent entity. And you know, as a lawyer, and both of us are lawyers, presumption of innocence is a constitutional right. You cannot just make an argument that because allegations have been based on this, the president should be able to lock people, and he has no power to lock people.
Peter, I know you're itching to answer, and I want to come to you. But gentlemen, let me just steer us back to the conversation, which is about the unity talks, and you've talked about the reasons why you believe the Jubilee administration would go home this time round. Having said that, though, you've said we cannot expect, to your best knowledge, a form of lineup of the opposition tomorrow, a formal kind of agreement that these are the parties that will coalesce to remove Jubilee from power. Having said that, though, do you not think that time is running out? There's an electorate who support the opposition, who are looking for people to rally behind. Why is it taking so long? It almost seems as though the opposition either A, does not have a game plan at all, or simply is deliberately refusing to give Kenyans the name of the leader that they would want them to rally behind. Which is it?
In all elections that have been won in Kenya or elsewhere, the winner was known 3 months to election. Come from the US Trump, come from the 2002 election, which President Kibaki won, come from, the current, leadership. I mean, how long they were in power. Don't imagine that when we don't go disclosing that this is our lineup, it does not exist. What we are saying is that we have our way of doing things. Instead of launching and commissioning, our leaders, we do our things the way we do it.
Not unfair to the public, to your supporters?
It cannot be unfair. You see, what brings us together is not the individuals leading us, unlike them, unlike Jubilee. What brings us together, the grievances we have, and how we can form a Kenyan nation, as I've told you. How we can, create this one Kenyan nation that keeps to go up and down. And I can tell you, let not the people of Kenya imagine that we are in the business of saying so and so is the leader. We want the people of Kenya come up with issues around which they can unite as we move forward. We have an arrangement, it will continue to work. But we are saying, for now, we are open to everybody who believes Kenya is headed the wrong direction. Let them come together and save this country.
Let me make it very clear. There is no suspense in court. There is only one presidential candidate in court. It will be Raila Odinga. Number two, there is the wild.
You believe that will be the conclusion?
That is a fact. Number two is that whereas court manifesto.
So they're hoodwinking everyone else?
Yeah, the main, the other ones are, flower girls and,
Kalonzo Musyoka is a flower girl in court?
Escorts of honor.
Was it Wetangula?
Wetangula was, Kalonzo was told he will be presidential candidate 2017. In the agreement.
Musalia Mudavadi is a flower girl?
Just listen to me.
In court?
In 2013, can I complete? He was told he was going to be presidential candidate 2017. I can look Kalonzo in the eye if he's watching TV and tell him you will not be, because Raila Odinga is not going to support you. But the point I want to let me conclude. The foundation of CORD and their manifesto is two things. One is mass action. Their manifesto number 2 is to change the constitution to accommodate seats that are not in the constitution. In fact, this called NASA is founded on false promise, because the promise is that we want to create a prime minister, we want to create deputy assistant prime minister, deputy assistant vice president.
About that?
And the plan is
he says what's wrong with that?
Yeah, because he knows it's the truth. That is what they are up to. Is to actually tell Kenyans, in the first 100 days, we will try to fight for a referendum, or let's bring these people together so that we can change the constitution to accommodate seats. For us in Jubilee, our manifesto is very clear. Is the development for people of Kenya, the number of roads we are going to deliver, the number of electricity we are going to work on, the railway coming to Nairobi, to Naivasha, to Kisumu, and to Malaba border. That is why the difference between CORD and Jubilee is like heaven on earth, because the earth is about developing people of Kenya, the other is about sharing seats. And let me remind them, there is no Kibaki for the 202 Tosha. And as I told you earlier, already all these people were running. We know their constituency, we know what they stand for, we know the number of votes they're talking about. We have told them, you have a choice to make tomorrow. You choose to stick together, you become joint losers. You stick to separate yourselves, you will lose separately.
And it is very nice to listen to Bana Murkomen.
It's always nice, of
and I can tell you, you do very well as a lawyer.
A lot of humility on your part.
Yes, by the way, you know, we used to do very well
it's my friend.
as a lawyer. I can tell you, my brother, you lose it when you become a political propagandist. Let me tell this country that the one reason that is dividing this nation is that we have just one or two mouths believed by the larger constituencies to be in the feeding trough. The more inclusive a government we create, the better. In fact, let me tell my brother that even now there is nothing stopping, you know, the current regime from having prime minister, chief minister, or whoever or whatever title you want to give them. And the idea that we want an inclusive government, to me, is not, you know, something that anybody can condemn. Let me assure you, we really don't need to amend the constitution to create those positions. If it is good for Kenya, we are going to create them. If it will help us to obviate a situation where two people are shouting they're eating meat and others are going angry, we will create it. But let me say, we don't want to go into propaganda about it. Organize your house. We are organizing our house. Let us proceed to elections. Our only request is that we should not interfere with the elections. Let us have free and fair elections, you know, for once in our country. And let us have a situation where whoever is elected the president is saluted by whoever wins.
All right, gentlemen, that's a note to wind it up on. I thank you for your views. We're taking a short break. On the big question, we're back with more after this.
Yes, thank you.